Hi, I'm Angelique.
I'm Jason.
This is our dog Kobe.
This is Penny.
And this is our van.
Alright guys, today we are installing the Maxxfan Deluxe. This is the 7500. Yeah, this is gonna actually be our first time we're cutting into the vehicle. So we will be cutting into the ceiling, and this is my first time ever cutting into an actual vehicle metal. So this will be really interesting. So right now, Angelique is gonna go to the roof of the van, and we're going to sketch out the area that we are gonna cut. And as exciting as it is to cut into the metal of the van, before I keep rambling on, I just wanted to address that before we even did any of that, Angelique and I needed to make a frame first. This wooden frame is gonna support the Maxxfan while it's sitting on the roof. It does need to be attached to something inside the van. So ultimately, that's what this frame is for, which you'll see in just a brief moment.
So we just made the frame, and this is going to go on the ceiling underneath, where we're going to drill into the Maxxair fan from the top.
Two of the pieces are 16 by 3/4, and then the other two pieces are 13 by 3/4, and that's how we got the square, so that way the fan can slide in here, and then on the roof we can screw it in as a support here. So originally we were going to do the outline of the cut on the roof. However, I was not able to see the outline of the ribs on top of the van, so we just decided to do everything in the van. I really was not trusting my judgment, and the math was not mathing. So what you see here is me holding the frame in the spot where we want the fan to be, and Angelique is just tracing the inside of the wooden frame for where we're gonna do our pilot holes and initial jigsaw cuts with the black Sharpie. After we get everything lined up, the entire time my thought process is we cannot mess up. There is no point of return. So we're just gonna get right into it. This was literally a holy moment, you know what I mean? So this was actually super nuts to experience, and now that we have 4 little holes, we're gonna connect them all together by getting the jigsaw out to make one big hole. And so with that being said, this is a closer up shot of how big the pilot holes are gonna be, and the jigsaw blade is just big enough to fit in that hole, so that's exactly where we're gonna be inserting the jigsaw once we get on the roof. So kind of similar to what we did on the inside of the van, Angelique is gonna trace the lines of where the pilot holes are on the roof, and as you can see, the roof is extremely dusty, dirty, so we're gonna give that a good wipe before we do any cuts with the jigsaw. Ever since we got the van, we have not washed it since we are modifying it anyways. We'll probably end up doing a deep clean towards the end of the build. And since we're watching a lot of other DIYers do this as well, masking tape seems to be a commonality amongst every single video that we've seen. We're gonna do the same process and just follow the lines, give myself a little extra space just in case we are gonna go over a little bit more. But based on the lining that Angelique did, we should be fine.
So right now I am taping this bag here because the one guy we watched said this would be a great way for us to catch any of the metal shavings, and it makes for like an easier cleanup. Once again, shout out the Wobi Design, lifesaver.
This is the last thing we're gonna be doing before we do the cut, so fingers crossed that it captures all the little metal pieces. And yeah, it's time to get cutting.
Wow. Be super careful. That thing is ridiculously sharp. That shit will cut you.
Oh my god. Yo, this was nuts. I am in huge disbelief still, but it really is cool to see that the plastic frame for the Maxxair fan is sitting really well inside the hole that I just cut. So really great first step. We're just gonna see if there's any sort of alterations I need to make prior to getting the wood frame on, but so far, this looks great. And before we start attaching the frame to the roof, I'm gonna clean up the edges with 220 grit sandpaper. This is pretty much just to clear up any sort of blemishes that appeared from the jigsaw cuts, and we really just want a smooth surface overall. And since we are losing daylight, the last thing that I'm gonna do today is pull out the Rust-Oleum paint. I am gonna spray the edges, so I just grabbed a piece of cardboard and I'm gonna spray the areas where I cut the metal, just so that way overnight it can sit dry and we can start installing the Max fan tomorrow. I've officially drilled a hole in the van. Beep. So today's exciting because we are finally putting the fan in today. I pulled out the vacuum because I did notice that there was a few little metal pieces on the roof, so I'm just deep cleaning it for the time being until we get started. Okay, so we're gonna be using butyl tape as an acting sealant for the frame and pretty much seal up the perimeter of it, so that way we can lay it on top of the roof and we're not gonna get any moisture or anything in the van.
We want to make sure it's very clean to have a nice base to start with, and the butyl tape comes in this roll. It's extremely sticky. It's cool because it kind of reminds me of Play-Doh, but yeah, it's a lot more sticky than I could even possibly convey in this video, so I had to be really careful. Plus, it was extremely hot, which made it even more melty and sticky. So I'm trying my best to make it all completely even and cover about 80% of it. I don't want to cover too much of it because it's going to squish out when we push it down on top of the ceiling.
So I'm not sure what happened to the audio in this clip, but I'm gonna voice over what we're doing. So the sealant that we're gonna be putting on the roof where the plastic frame is for the fan, I'm gonna put a little bit of this on the wooden frame that's gonna sit in the ceiling. And this isn't really like an adhesive, this is just to make sure no moisture goes through the cracks and crevices of where the screws are gonna be drilled into. This is more of a precautionary for me and just a little bit of peace of mind. And now that we got the sealant on the frame, we're gonna head to the roof so we can finally get this frame screwed in. And also what you're seeing here is a little bit of tape that was from yesterday's Rust-Oleum spray. So it's not the tape that I'm gonna be using for the sealant that will cover the screws. And before I even start putting down new masking tape, I am gonna clamp down the frame to the wood so that way I can at least start getting a couple screws in. We unfortunately don't have multiple clamps to do all four corners, so I start doing it one at a time, which you'll see in just a few moments. And I'm not sure if you can tell in the video, but this frame itself is 100% plastic. What you're gonna wanna do with the clamps is firmly tighten it, but you don't wanna do it so tight to the point that it'll break it. The last thing you want to do is order a new piece, and to be completely honest, I don't want to have a giant hole in the roof of our van, just in case, for whatever reason, California decides to have rain, which would completely suck, and we don't want that. So I took off the old masking tape and prepped some new masking tape to get it ready for the sealant, but before we do that, we're going to start screwing in this frame. And it does take a little bit of time since we only have 2 clamps. I couldn't just follow the row of screws, so we had to make some alterations with the clamps just to be safe, and I can't really guide you on that. Everyone's frame and insert for their fans is going to be so different. But I pretty much just eyeballed it to make sure that the wood was attached to the ceiling inside of the van, so that way the screws can directly go into the wood frame and make 100% contact. And I'm not sure if you can really see it, but in that bottom right corner of the frame, that little gray stuff that you see sticking out, that's actually the butyl tape. So that means we got really good contact where we put the butyl tape. So I'm stoked on that. And over the screw heads, I applied a small bead of sealant to seal them off. This is just to prevent any moisture from working its way into the frame over time. I also put a good amount of sealant all around the frame, and using gloves, I used my hand to press the sealant further into any cracks that I might have missed that I couldn't see with my eyes. The masking tape is kind of a cool placeholder to have because once the sealant dries, you rip that masking tape off and it makes really clean, detailed lines, and it truly gives that 100% professional look. And now that the sealant is completely around the ring of the frame, I'm gonna let it sit for an hour before I start peeling off this masking tape. But for you guys, it's only gonna be a couple seconds.
346 minutes later.
Also, please excuse this angle of a shot that I got. I was completely unaware that I was not getting the actual footage of me ripping off that first strip until I noticed like a couple moments later that the camera was sliding a little bit back on the roof. But adjusted it so you guys can get a closer look, and it looks so good. I'm very excited with how this came out. And as much as I immediately just want to get this project done, I do want that sealant to have a full day of drying. And after giving it 24 hours to cure, it's time to finally pop this fan in. This is the easiest part of the install. We're just going to drop it in and secure it with screws. Now that we have the fan on, to do those initial screws on the sides right there that you're seeing, we do have to lift up that black panel really quick. So Angelique on the inside of the van is turning the knob for it to lift up, so that way we can start getting these screws in. And this is literally the last step to get this fan done.
I'm just gonna take a quick look inside, make sure nothing is squishing out, sticking out, poking out. It needs to be perfect so when we do connect the electricity, it's all good. Time to screw it in. Now for the grand reveal. Yay! Plastic is off. Oh my God, it looks so nice and shiny and new. It is installed 100% officially. We are done. Hell yeah, guys. I know we took a little bit longer getting this video posted, so thank you for your patience, but we are trying to tackle a great deal in a little amount of time. So stay tuned because we will be posting a video soon with the air conditioning install.
See you guys next time.